yes, this Honorable Superior Court for the County of Wake is not convened and sitting for this special session.
The Honorable Judge A. Graham Shirley is present presiding. Yes, God save the state in this Honorable Court. Please be seated, remain quiet, check all cell phones, make sure they're on silent. Good afternoon, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. I'd like to welcome everyone to this memorial session of Wake County Superior Court. It is always a good and nice thing to remember those who we've practiced with through the years. And I'm hopeful that after today those memories will remain strong. I'm going to now turn this session over to James Hash, President of the 10th Judicial District.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Thank you. May it please the court.
Yes.
Good afternoon and welcome. First of all, thank you for braving a storm today to be here. I think it's very important. I think the importance of this event is evidenced by the fact that folks did brave the weather to be here today. One of the most important traditions that we have here in the 10th Judicial District Bar is to remember those of our membership who have served and who have now left us with great memories of their accomplishments. And this is one of the most uplifting times of the year because we get to appreciate the accomplishments of those folks. Here in Wake County with the 10th Judicial District Bar, we are very proud of the place that we hold as a leader within the state and really within our country. And that is because of the professionalism and the accomplishments of our members. We're grateful to Judge Shirley and to our court staff for letting us be here today. We're also grateful to Mary Winstead, who chairs our memorial committee, who always worked very hard to make this a meaningful opportunity for our membership and our members' families to come together to remember those who have served. Thank you very much for sharing your loved one with our bar during their lifetime, and thank you for taking the time to share this remembrance with us here in their passing. Mary.
Okay, please the court. Thank you, James. Good afternoon. I am Mary Winstead, the chair of the 10th Judicial District Wake County Bar Association Memorials Committee. It is an honor for me to have the privilege of serving as chair of the committee that plans and hosts these special memorial sessions. On behalf of the members of the committee and the bar, I also want to welcome everyone to this session. Today we honor 3 distinguished lawyers who have surely been remembered at other times and in other ways at other services. But this memorial session of court is different because it allows our bar to celebrate the lives of our members with you, their families, their friends, their colleagues, and to express our gratitude for your loved ones' contributions to the profession and our community. It is appropriate that we gather in this space to remember your family members and honor our deceased colleagues. Whether your loved one was sworn in at the old courthouse or here and never stepped foot back in, or whether they regularly walk these halls, this is no doubt a special place. Today, we collectively pause from the business of meting out justice in these courtrooms and all that comes with that to honor 3 attorneys who are no longer with us, but who have each left a legacy that we want to honor. These memorial sessions always reveal so much about the remarkable lawyers of our local bar. I have often mused that these sessions should be mandatory continuing legal education for new lawyers, because inevitably we hear recounted ways that the older lawyers of our bar embodied professionalism and collegiality, things that we want to perpetuate in the profession. Hopefully, this special session of court will be for you a welcomed opportunity for reflection and remembrance, as well as a time to share a laugh or two. It is the sincere hope of our bar that this ceremonial session of court will be a memorable and special time for you. On behalf of the Memorials Committee, I want to thank you, the families of our honorees, for sharing them with us and for allowing us to honor them. Our first honoree is Franklin Kent Burns, and he will be remembered by Julia Kirkpatrick.
Good afternoon. I'm Julia Kirkpatrick of the firm Burns Day and Presnell here in Raleigh. I am here to remember Franklin Kent Burns, who practiced in Raleigh the entirety of his legal career. Kent was an interesting mix of a true Southern gentleman and former Marine. He would invite you to lunch, but if you weren't at the elevator by 11:45, you've missed the boat. You weren't having lunch with Kent that day or any other. He wore a coat and tie every day, no exceptions. His office never had a piece of paper out of place. Every folder stored in a cabinet, neatly stacked on his desk or otherwise put away. After receiving his undergraduate degree from Duke, Kent received an appointment to West Point, but since he was already a naval ROTC candidate at Duke, he decided to become a Marine. He served with the Marines as a lieutenant during the Korean War and later became a captain in the reserves. His father was an attorney in Winston-Salem, and after the Korean War, he decided to go to UNC Law School. After graduating from law school in 1955, he joined the North Carolina Attorney General's office, where he eventually was assigned to the Utilities Commission. Taking advantage of that utility law experience, in 1965, he went into private practice with Gene Boyce and I. Beverly Lake Jr. They formed Boyce, Lake and Burns, which later became Boyce, Mitchell, Burns and Smith. In 1986, he and two other partners from Boyce, Mitchell, Burns and Smith formed Burns Day and Presnell. Kent practiced with that firm until he retired in 1995. I met Kent when I was a legal runner while a student at NC State. We never practiced law together, but certainly he influenced my practice and certainly that of my colleagues who were his contemporaries. For decades, Kent was one of the preeminent utility lawyers in North Carolina. He represented the likes of Public Service Natural Gas, UPS when trucking was still regulated, scores of water companies, and every telephone company in North Carolina other than Bell South, before the North Carolina Utilities Commission. True to his Southern gentleman nature, he was always polite and courteous when cross-examining an expert witness. But at the same time, true to his military training, he would never stop until the witness answered the question he posed. No matter how many times he had to ask, he was not going to let the witness get away without answering the question. Kent Burns was a credit to the legal community and to the Wake County Bar, an attorney who practiced law with the highest degree of professionalism and ethics, and it was my privilege to know him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next honoree is Jennifer Menser Gray, and she will be remembered by Anna Phelps.
Your Honor, may it please the court?
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. And again, I'd like to reiterate what Mr. Hash has said, thank you for being here during a hurricane. So I know a lot of people came long and far to be here. When Colin Willoughby asked me to speak on behalf of Jennifer today, I was very honored. I will say it's going to be one of the hardest things I've done. But I told him this afternoon, I said, I don't know if I want to kiss you or kill you because these last 3 weeks have been kind of tedious. I did want to thank the Wake County Bar because this is a really nice service that a lot of other bars do not do, and that all these people that should be commended for all of their attributions and contributions to this community and to each of us individually. I do want to thank and recognize her family. Her father, Bob Gray, and Vicki Gray are both traveling from Indiana today for this service. And unfortunately, the mother, Vicki, is stuck at the airport where they have deterred, I guess they've rerouted them to Virginia. So she's going to be watching the recording as well. Their Aunt Linda is here, and a lot of family, friends, and colleagues who I really appreciate. I know she had a lot of respect for Colin Willoughby, as so do I, and I appreciate him asking me for this honor. Jennifer is very close to her whole family. She was one of 3 sisters, Allie and Lindsay, and also close to their husbands, Jacob and Paul. Most importantly, she was close to her twin nieces, so Carson and Savannah, who she talked about all the time and loved to play with them whenever she got a chance to visit them. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Anna Feltz, and I've practiced in private practice criminal defense for almost 24 years here in Wake County. And Jennifer had been one of my best friends and colleagues for about 15 years. You can tell she's a hot blonde. She was smart and fun. And when we were single in our 20s, she was my best wing woman. There weren't many heads that didn't turn when she walked in the room. I did want to read a little bit of a bio from her. Jennifer Menser, Gray, at 42, passed away, but she grew up in Carmel, Indiana, and played tennis at Carmel High School, where she was an avid tennis player. She graduated from the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill and went on to get her Juris Doctor degree from North Carolina Central School of Law. She worked as an assistant district attorney for Wake County for 9 years, where she was really known for prosecuting cases but being reasonable and advocating for victims in every way, particularly in domestic violence cases, and she also was well known for even murder cases and prosecuting a lot of drug trafficking cases. She then worked as a guardian ad litem to advocate for children with difficult home situations who were severely abused, and she became their voice for them and placed them in safe homes. She went on to become the lead attorney for the Department of the Insurance for North Carolina, and where she prosecuted fraud cases. It's no surprise that she was honored as the award for Women of Justice Award for the state of North Carolina. Well deserved. Jennifer particularly liked 3 things: chilled Chardonnay, UNC Tar Heels, and sloths. I always understood the wine and the Chardonnay, the Tar Heels, but never the sloths. They never made sense to me because when you think about them, they're kind of creepy. They seem slow, kind of dumb, and very different than Jennifer. And so today when I was preparing for this, I actually looked up what are the characteristics of a sloth. And I was very surprised to realize the commonality they actually have towards each other. It said they are intelligent creatures. They have developed unique strategies to overcome the challenges that they face. Again, she had a very strong commonality with sloths because in her late 30s, she was diagnosed with the Leber hereditary optic neuropathy, otherwise known as the Lowndes disease, which causes total blindness. Many people would have just received disability, but not Jennifer. Her unparalleled perseverance and continued to better herself and advocate for others. Can you imagine, during COVID, she maintained living by herself with the assistance of others. Cassie Erber is one that was here today who was very influential in helping her. And she maintained living by herself. She was fully blind, and she continued to strive and persevere. I remember particularly one time during COVID, I went to go see her, and it's a beautiful condo where she lived, and they had this foyer, and we went in, we were wearing masks, we were about 6 feet away from each other. I mean, it was the first time we'd seen each other in some time, although we talked all the time. But she was so excited that she brought out this large book, and she was elated to tell me that she had taught herself Braille. And even at night, she would, Cassie told me that she would read, Jennifer would read short stories to Cassie through the Braille that she had learned. She also attended the School for the Blind, where she was very effective in advocating for the visually impaired. She was active with city government to improve street crossings, public transit, and ride-sharing services. She was even doing private counseling, consulting with private defense firms, and even the week before her passing, she asked me could she work for my law firm in hopes that she would get back into the courtroom one day. She was most proud that she had been asked to be the lead speaker for the Loans Organization National Convention, which was held in New Orleans and one in Phoenix, Arizona. Unfortunately, she did pass before those events, but she was most influential in having them held. Most impressed I had was how charitable Jennifer was. She volunteered for many nonprofits and making a difference for the less fortunate. Super Kids, just for a few of them, Super Kids, which is run by our former Attorney General Rufus Edmonston, who provides scholarships for underprivileged children, Models for Charity, Dress for Success. She served on the board for Interact, that helps victims for domestic violence, and the American Heart Association. Jennifer was really known for one-liners. She was anybody who knew her, back there they're laughing because, I can't really say most of them here, so I spent a long time trying to find one. So you got to remember, I was doing criminal defense and she was doing prosecution. And so for years we would kind of banter back and forth. So the weekend before she passed, 6 of us decided to go to the beach together. We just literally went to go celebrate life. No special occasion. On the way there, Jennifer and I were driving. Well, I guess I was driving. She was blind, so that would have been a little problem. But I was driving, and she was sitting a passenger next to me. And I would try to give her, I hope this joke's appropriate. I'm not always appropriate, so. Anyway, we were driving to the beach together, and of course we had this bantering between criminal defense and prosecution. I would try to give her landmarks along the way because she did not have her vision at this time. So I said, Jennifer, we are actually kind of approaching the jail on the right. It's kind of a 50% mark. So we're approaching the jail on the right, and she looked over, she said, "You're welcome." And I was like, "You're awful." But they have maintained ongoing jokes forever about that. So 6 of us went to the beach, and it was really consoling to know that her last days spent on this earth were very much enjoyed. We had a ball. She danced, she laughed. We walked on the beach. We went to the International Food Festival, walked on the boardwalk in the marina in Beaufort, and just had a great time. I was looking for a quote for today that summarized my relationship with her and with others. So I looked to the most prolific author and profound writer, Dr. Seuss. Don't cry because it's over, smile because it happened. Thank you.
Our final honoree today is Ronald Ira Kirschbaum, and he will be remembered by David Nanney.
Thank you to the bar for doing this. It's a very nice tribute. I see that picture of Ron must be about 40 years old, but that's kind of the way I remember Ron. By the way, I'm David Nanney from Kirschbaum, Nanney, Keenan, and Griffin, and I have had the privilege of practicing with Ron Kirschbaum for my entire legal career until he retired. He was my corporate tax professor at Campbell. So I first met him when I was a 3rd year at Campbell Law School. And as many of you may know, Ron was the income tax professor for the inaugural charter class at Campbell. Matter of fact, I don't see any victims in here. Oh, I see one victim in there. Colin, how'd you do in his tax class? Yeah, he's not commenting, but no. But we there weren't a lot of us that signed up for corporate tax, but Ron drove all the way from Raleigh to Bowie's Creek to teach corporate tax. And I can't remember if we had it once or twice a week, but it may have been like 3 hours once a week. But he also taught a class in pension and profit sharing. Now, there were even fewer people who wanted to take that. As a matter of fact, we didn't have enough to sign up for them for Campbell to offer the course. So the first thing Ron did after introducing himself was, I see some of you signed up for the pension and profit sharing class. He said, I'll be happy to teach you that class for free after the corporate tax class when I'm here. It's like, wow, that's pretty nice. So a few of us took advantage of that, but it didn't take us very long to figure out, one, that Ron was very much of an intellectual. But he was one of those intellectuals, the more I got to know him and the closer I became with him, that he wasn't just an intellectual, he had an equal amount, if not more, of common sense, that's a kind of a rare combination. But the other thing we thought that was cool about Ron is, here he is, this intellectual kind of, professor-looking guy, and he drove a Z28 Camaro, which we all thought was just the coolest thing in the world. But he, I went to work for Ron's, actually before I graduated from law school, and that was in 1985. And I've never gone anywhere else. I mean, working with Ron, it is a privilege because, and Chess and Pam and his son Frank will tell you the same thing, you never have to worry about doing the right thing with Ron. If you come to Ron with a question, you always know that he's going to give you the answer that this is what you should do. You should do the right thing. Don't go up to the line even. And it's so wonderful. You just have no idea what it's like that as a young lawyer to have a mentor like that follows you all throughout your legal career. Now, Ron was born in Florida, grew up in Florida, and went to Emory undergrad, then went to UNC Law School, and then went to NYU to get his LLM in tax. And then he eventually ended up in Raleigh. That was, I believe, probably the early 70s when he and Bill Ragsdale, rest his soul, and Ed Hollowell, rest his soul, they were in Hollowell and Ragsdale. And then Bill and Ron split off in 1973 and formed Ragsdale and Kirschbaum. So I think, Ron's proudest moments, many people don't know he served on the Raleigh City Council. I think somebody made him mad and he ran for election. But he was very proud of that. He was certainly proud of all three of his children and all of his grandchildren. He just, he doted on them all the time. He may not have doted to them, but he certainly did to other people. And I think one of the proudest days of his life is when Frank joined us at the law firm and they got to practice law together. You could just see how proud he was of that accomplishment. Frank may think differently, but it's kind of anybody's dream to have your child come practice law with you. But otherwise, Ron was just, there were just so many things he was involved in. I mean, we used to have a running joke. We had this little lunch group of like tax lawyers and CPAs that used to meet every couple of weeks. And, I would come speak and there'd be like, 8 or 10 people there, or somebody else would come speak, there'd be 8 or 10 people there. Ron would come speak and there'd be like 30 people that came because they just, they valued what he had to say. The other inside joke we used to have is, I don't know, some of you will remember when there was no Lawyers Weekly. And the only publication we had was the Campbell Law Observer. Well, Ron used to write a tax article every week, maybe 2 weeks, I can't remember. And yeah, I did ghostwrite a few for him, but the inside joke we always had is if we ever had a tax case, like in tax court, we'd write an article to be published in the Campbell Law Observer, and then we'd cite ourselves to the IRS. So it was interesting, but I just can't tell you how much Ron meant to me. I mean, there's just no way for me to describe it, but I genuinely appreciate him. I appreciated him from day one, and I still appreciate him. So for those of you who knew him, we'll raise a toast. Those of you who didn't, know that we're missing a great member of the bar. Thanks.
That concludes our program. I hope you found it as inspiring as I always do. I always come away from these sessions just feeling so uplifted. And we just, again, appreciate you, family, sharing your loved ones with us. As you can see, the video was going, and after some edits are made and some photographs are added, in addition to the ones that were on the screen, it'll be available on the Wake County Bar Association YouTube site. So I hope you'll visit that in a few weeks and you'll be able to relive this session. I want to thank Judge Shirley for stepping in at the last minute and presiding over the session, all the court personnel and everyone with the bar. James, thank you. Thank everyone for being here today.
Before we adjourn, I'd just like to say that the memories that are expressed in this service that we have twice a year now, I think they demonstrate why our bar is so special and stands above others, not only in this state and throughout the country. I also think when we come to these, we live as people in the legal profession in such a tunnel, with tunnel vision. But when we come to these, we often realize the impact that our members have on our community outside the legal profession. And it's always good to hear that our members not only work hard at law, but they work to make their community better. That being said, this special memorial session of Wake County Superior Court is now adjourned.
All rise. We ask for SOS, this Honorable Superior Court for the County of Wake now stands adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.